Minecraft God Armour. That's right, what you're looking at right now is armor that was obtained 100% legitimately in survival mode. No cheats, no bugs, no glitches, just a full set, or two, of perfect God armor. Some of these armor pieces even have upwards of 9 enchantments on them. If you've played Minecraft for a while, you'd probably know that you can only put one type of protection on armor, and that's it. They are mutually exclusive. That means that unfortunately, if you load up a survival world, you aren't able to create god tier armor with every single possible enchantment on them. Try it yourself if you don't believe me. But as you can see, it certainly is, or I should say, was possible at one stage, and not many people seem to know the story behind it, or how it came to be. In fact, many people don't even know that perfect Minecraft armor was actually obtainable at one point. It's quite the interesting tale. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Minecraft God Armour, and the legend behind it. So, let's begin. Enchantments were first added to Minecraft all the way back in November of 2011 in Minecraft version 1.0.0, the game's full release, where it finally left beta. This update introduced the 4 armor enchantments. Protection reduced majority of damage sources by 4%, Projectile Protection reduces projectile damage, Blast Protection reduces explosion damage and knockback, and Fire Protection reduces fire damage and burn time. In order to understand the significance and strength of God Armour though, you have to understand how armor enchants work. So, let me quickly break it down for you all. When armor has enchantments on it, the extra protection from these enchantments are capped at a certain EPF, or what's known as an enchantment protection factor. Armor can only have 20 of these EPF points, and can only reduce 80% of damage at maximum. Even with a spawned in diamond chestplate with protection 32,000, this will still only reduce the same amount of damage as, let's say, a full set of spawned in protection 5 armor. How does this work with our 4 armor protections then? Well, for every 1 level of the protection enchantment on an armor piece, you get 1 EPF, and 1 EPF is 4% damage reduction. So, if you had a piece of armor with protection 4, that's an additional 4 EPFs, which is 16% damage reduction. Get protection 4 on all 4 armor pieces, and that's 16 EPFs, for a total of 64% damage reduction. With only protection on your armor, you will never reach 20 EPFs, and thus will never get 80% damage reduction, maxing out at 64%. But the other 3 armor enchantments work differently. For every enchantment level, they give 2 EPFs instead of 1. So a piece of armor with, let's say, Blast Protection 4 would reduce damage from blast by 32%. A full set would reduce blast damage by 128%, but as I mentioned earlier, damage reduction is capped at 80%. This means there would be no point having a full set of Blast Protection 4, as you get the same effect with 2 pieces at level 4 and 1 piece at level 2. So, while Fire Protection, Blast Protection, and Projectile Protection can reduce more damage, since they only reduce certain types of damage, Protection still remain the most popular enchantment choice, as it had the ability to reduce all types of damage, just not as well. By the way guys, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, it really makes my day. Anyways, at this time in the game's life, having armor with multiple types of protection enchantments was impossible still. In fact, back in the early versions of the game, getting decent enchanted armor with just protection was even more difficult, as enchantment tables could require a whopping 50 levels to do a tier 3 enchant. And instead of just using a bit of your XP as it does in modern day versions, it would use every single level. The enchants also varied so much that you would spend hours just constantly resetting the table hoping to get a high level enchant, otherwise you would have to settle for something not as useful. The player base also didn't know the game as well, and as such, there weren't really any commonly known fast XP farms like we have today. So not only was getting XP harder, but getting good enchants was also so much more of a process that it just wasn't worth it. Fortunately, a few updates later in version 1.3, the cost to enchant was reduced to a maximum of 30, and then with the release of 1.4.6 in December 2012, a bit over a year after enchantments were added to the game, enchanted books and the ability to combine pieces of armor through anvils finally became a thing. This meant that getting decent sets of armor was finally a relatively achievable process that wouldn't break your sanity. This would prompt the community to begin discussing the possibility of getting multiple types of protection on their armor, which would be especially useful for late game players who had not much left to do, or had the resources to make that perfect armor set. But unfortunately, as we know, armor protection enchantments would still remain exclusive. Unknown to the vast majority of the playbase at the time, even to the modern playbase, is that there was a small but rare bug in the game for a while. You see, not long before the Enchanted Book update, in fact it was only 2 months prior in October of 2012, Minecraft 1.4.2 was released. This update gave zombies, skeletons, and zombie pigmen the ability to pick up and use armor and weapons, as well as spawn with them naturally, and the armor they spawned with could come already enchanted. In Minecraft version 1.9, skeleton traps were added. Now, most of you probably won't know what they are or have forgotten about them, but basically, when there is a thunderstorm in the game, there is a low chance of a skeleton horse spawning. If you walk up to a skeleton horse getting within 10 blocks of it, lightning will strike it, and 4 skeleton horses with skeletons riding them will spawn. The skeletons spawn with enchanted helmets and bows, which of course have a chance of dropping. Players discovered that the drops you can get from these skeletons are slightly glitched. There have been instances where players have managed to obtain bows from these skeletons with multiple power enchantments on them, or even multiple versions of Unbreaking, something that isn't possible to create normally in vanilla Minecraft. And in even rarer scenarios, their iron helmets could be replaced with another helmet, at least according to the wiki, and this helmet could have multiple enchantments on it. The bug supposedly occurs because while the game is spawning in the skeleton riders, it runs the code to apply random enchantments to their gear twice without checking if the enchantments are conflicting. If you want to know more about that, Narcoleptic Frog has a good video which will be linked down below. Anyways, Narcoleptic Frog's video, alongside another video by Razeworks, are some of the only recorded instances I could find of players obtaining god pieces of armor from this bug. That being said, according to Narcoleptic Frog, the items behaved weirdly in anvils, sometimes removing the stacked enchants. But you could add universal enchants such as Unbreaking and Mending, so if you got lucky enough and got a really good piece, you were able to salvage it. However, the odds of obtaining good quality and rare helmets such as a diamond helmet with protection 6 is absurdly rare, requiring anywhere from 12 years of constant skeleton horse farming to over 2,000 to reliably get one. Crazy stuff. According to this bug report, the multiple enchantments glitch was actually in the game all the way up until version 1.16, where it was finally patched. So technically it was possible to get a piece of God Armor if you were lucky enough all the way back in 2015. Older versions of Minecraft Bedrock Edition also had a similar but more common bug. On Bedrock Edition, as reported by various players, there is a chance that mobs will spawn with enchanted armor that has multiple types of protection on it, and there are a few recorded cases of this on Reddit. So, there is an even higher, although still low chance of getting God Armor on Bedrock Edition, but unfortunately, bar these scarce Reddit posts, there is very little information out there. Things would change in Minecraft 1.14 however. In Minecraft Snapshot 19W02A, released on January 9th, 2019, there was an unreported change to the game. Players could now put multiple different protections on armor through enchanted books and an anvil. They could also get multiple protections from the enchantment table, but this change was not featured in any patch notes. Nevertheless, players began noticing, and posts were made on Reddit, the Minecraft forums, and YouTube, spreading the information like wildfire. Most players initially thought it was a glitch in the snapshot or a bug, but alas, the change stayed in the game, even with Minecraft 1.14's full release in April later that year. And at last, we had a version of the game where you could get God Armor, but the process was actually quite tricky and specific. You see, if you just got all the enchanted books, whacked them on a piece of armor randomly, you probably would have got to the point where you only needed 1 or 2 more enchantments, but couldn't add them as it became too expensive. If the cost of combining items gets to over 40 XP, you will be unable to combine them in survival mode. In order to create a piece of God Armor, you had to do it in this specific order. I'll use the boots to demonstrate as you need the most enchantments for them, 9 in total. First and foremost, you should combine the books together so they each have 2 enchantments, and 1 book with 3 enchantments. Make sure to try and get the cheapest combinations by switching their positions around. Then you add each book to the boots individually like this, and the final combination should be just under 40 XP. Perfect. For chestplates and leggings, the process is similar, although you can combine the books together more if you'd like. And a set of armor like this now reduces 80% of all damage types, which previously was not possible, as Protection 4 would only reduce 64% of damage when on all pieces. So, God Armor gave you an additional 16% damage reduction from virtually all damage sources. Very nice. Just like that, we were finally able to obtain God Armor legitimately for the very first time in survival mode. Now, while it looks really cool, there is actually no point in having 4 pieces of God Armor like this, besides showing off or having nice aesthetics. You see, with 1 piece of God Armor, let's say the leggings, you have 28 EPF points, already exceeding the cap of 20. In fact, with God Boots, because Feather Falling also contributes 3 points to the EPF for each level, with Boots alone you would have a whopping 40 EPF, double the cap. So, if you wanted to be the most protected but couldn't afford to get all the enchantments, you could just have Protection 4 on a few pieces of armor and then put 1 other type of protection individually just like this. But where's the fun in that? Half the reason for getting God Armor is to display how dedicated you are. It's more of a statement than anything. For example, whenever a new player joined our SMP, I would show them the armor and they would be blown away by our commitment to the game. It wouldn't be nearly as impressive if it was just like this. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked now, as a few months later in June of 2019, 1.14.3 was released, reverting the enchantment changes and the ability to have multiple types of protection on armor. While it was never clear why exactly this change was reverted, there is one unconfirmed reason. With the enchantment changes in 1.14, players began reporting that they were getting low tier enchantments from level 30 enchants. This was linked as a potential reason why Mojang decided to revert the change, as it somehow messed with the level 3 enchantments from the enchantment table. But while the ability to create God Armour was removed after only a brief period of time, those who had managed to get the armor already wouldn't lose it. And in fact, when 1.16 was released about a year ago now, you could even upgrade your diamond God Armour to netherite. It's likely that in the years to come, having God Armour on your survival world will truly be a testament to its age, a memento of time. So that's where we are with God Armour right now. From something that could only be obtained through mods and glitches to a legitimate feature in the game, only to be removed shortly after. But what did the community think of its removal? After the removal of God Armour, majority of the playbase who cared were slightly upset. If you think of it, getting full protection for armor is a relatively easy task today. Even getting mending is far easier than it used to be, due to the ability to change a village's trades just by destroying and replacing its workbench. So, having a sort of endgame armor to grind for, which players who have spent a long time playing in their world can try to get, was beneficial to the game. It wasn't easy getting perfect God Armour, because you needed so many enchanted books, which you could only reliably get with lots of villagers. In fact, when I did it on my SMP, I built a massive trading hall with villagers that traded every single enchanted book. This took dozens of hours, and I remember sitting in Discord calls with my friends while I endlessly placed and destroyed lecterns in order to get good enchants. But it gave me, a late game player, something else to do, which the game tends to struggle with. So I think overall it definitely was a good change to the game that should have remained. But who knows, maybe in some future update it will be changed again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe if you did, join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Both are linked in the description. Thank you all so much for watching.